Hi, my name is Vivian Tran, and I will be presenting the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial is known for its symbol of American honor and recognizes those men and women that had served and sacrificed their lives in the Vietnam War, which had taken place on November 1st, 1955 to April 30th, 1975. The Vietnam War was complicated, unwanted, and had an ending that was discontented. Many lives have been lost not only from the United States and Vietnam, but also France, South Korea, China, the Soviet Union, Cambodia, and Laos. Focusing on the United States, all over the country, nobody knew how to handle the loss of their loved ones and unsatisfied ending of the war. Even discussing the war had been difficult for Americans. It only led to conflicts over race, culture, governments, economics, and picturing scenes of death and corruption. To avoid the topic, people would begin to forget about the war, or at least the people who had the privilege of doing so. To prevent this, Jan Craig Scruggs, founder of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, wanted to carve something that would be a reminder of the Vietnam War along the monuments on the National Mall located in Washington, D.C. However, Scruggs did not want just a simple and traditional totem to reflect the war, because a traditional totem would not be able to reflect how the country had felt. With this, a public design competition had been released to design the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. A jury had been selected who had chosen the design based on the design itself and not the artist, a blind judgment. Out of 1,422 applicants, a Yale undergraduate had been chosen by the name of Maya Lin. Lin, raised in Ohio, was a Chinese American that majored in architecture that wanted to create a design that commemorated all veterans that had served, along with a country that had lost many lives. She did not want the memorial to be about honor or something shameful to look back on. So instead of using grand symbols such as the American flag, military wear, or any representation of the United States, Lin wanted two black walls that began on different ends inside the earth and then grew and grew to meet each other at a center. Her design would represent more intimacy rather than just publicity. Lin described her design as a wound that is closed and healing. The design had one end pointed to the Lincoln Memorial and the other end pointing to the Washington Memorial. On the black walls, the names of the dead and missing would be listed in chronological order. The wall itself is made up of reflective black granite from Bangalore, India, that is sunk into the ground. The two walls are each 246 feet and 9 inches, or 75.2 meters long. They meet at an angle of 125 degrees. The walls are supported underneath the ground by 140 concrete pilings that reach 35 feet to bedrock. Maya Lin had chosen black granite for a sole purpose that would feel like two worlds. The memorial itself would be the boundary between the world we know and the more quiet, darker, and peaceful world. It would be the divide among the world we are a part of and the world we cannot enter. As a person walks from one end of the memorial, the wall would become taller and list more names. Likewise, if a person were to start at the center apex or vertex of the wall and walk to one of the ends, the wall would become shorter and less names would be shown. This design is like the letter V, meant to look like a scar on the earth that would take time to heal. Lin had stated, "I imagine taking a knife and cutting into the earth, opening it up, in initial violence and pain that in time would heal." On the top of the wall it states, "In honor of the men and women of the armed forces of the United States who served in the Vietnam War. The names of those who gave their lives and of those who remain missing are inscribed in the order they were taken from us." On the bottom of the wall it states, "Our nation honors the courage, sacrifice, and devotion to duty and country of its Vietnam veterans. This memorial was built with private contributions from the American people. November 11th, 1982. Over 58,000 names consisting of men and 8 women among those names. The names are listed chronologically by when the first casualties appeared, starting in 1959 and currently ending at 1975 as of September 2020. The memorial, which is broken into 140 panels, the name starts at one of the center panels, panel 1E, meaning 1 East, which goes to the end of the east side of the memorial, ending the names at panel 70 East. The list of names starts again at 70W, or 70 West, which is on the opposite end and goes back towards the center to the other half of the center panel, 1W, or 1 West. Then the names are met at the central apex, which has a height of 10 feet and 3 inches. Each name has a symbol next to it. A diamond would represent that the service member's death is confirmed. A cross represents a missing person, or the person had been imprisoned during the war and still remains missing. A parenthesis around the cross will represent that the person had been returned alive. But no such thing has happened, and has only been on the wall because names have been put on the wall, even though the service member is alive. The letters of the names are burned into the wall with a sand-blasting apparatus being pressed over a stencil adhesive of the names. The apparatus is able to remove dust while the name is being placed, but the temperature of the wall must not be too hot, or else there will be a white blob in the middle of a letter. When the names are being burned into the wall, many gather to witness the new name being placed, and silence falls upon the crowd. Although Lynn had designed an incredible memorial, it had been controversial as it brought up the politics of the Vietnam War. Groups of veterans had complained that there were no patriotic or heroic symbols and that it only honored the lives that had been lost instead of the lives that survived. Others argued that it should have risen from the ground and not the earth, as though the Vietnam War was an event that should have been hidden. Politicians began agreeing with the complaints as Congressman Henry Hyde led the opposition of the wall being built. Along Hyde, 27 congressmen wrote a letter to the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, which had called the wall a political statement of dishonor and shame. A campaign was even launched to change the color of the wall from black to white and add an 8-foot-high sculpture of soldiers on the site. Due to the political pressure, the Committee of Fine Arts added a 50-foot-high flagpole and an 8-foot-tall statue of 3 soldiers by Frederick Hart that called Lynn's design nihilistic. Lynn had not attended the meeting when the Committee of Fine Arts decided to add the pole and sculptures because she was hurt that her design brought such controversy that she was not able to talk about it until many years later. She stated later that she always wanted the memorial to be apolitical and regretted that it became a weapon to fight with when the only meaning was to highlight the veterans that had served. To Lynn, the names are the object rather than the wall. The names carry someone along its letters, and the wall simply just displays those names. The memorial is able to let people look at it without any judgment or complications, but rather to look and understand. The design of the wall was meant to focus on the names written and how their absence played into each of their loved ones' lives. The memorial may look from an outsider's perspective that has left a bare minimum legacy, that it was only surface level, but it is the most human legacy that any memorial could have. Each name represents each life. It serves as a grave and tombstone for the nation, not a monument. The memorial takes a look at intimacy of human loss and what it must cost to win. It is a chance to let our scar heal and help each other heal. The memorial is not just about design, architecture, or art, nor is it about the controversy around its creation. It is about how we, as Americans, remember the Vietnam War, how we view its history, and how we live with the wounds it had left. The painting on the mirror represents the surface and below the surface. We may only see the memorial, but it holds much more meaning to everyone that had been affected. The painting was drawn in the mirror as how Lynn chose black granite. We can only see, but we cannot enter. This presentation is dedicated to my grandpa. I hope he is happy and his soul is at rest. Thank you.